From the creator of Vampire Hunter D, we have Darkside Blues, and you guessed it, not nearly as good. I was really excited to check this movie out because it was about $5 online, and also Vampire Hunter D was one of my favorite anime movies of all time, and when watching this, I can't say that I was let down by it, but I really feel that this movie is a giant anime tease, because here we're shown this deep world, rich with history, where so much has happened. There's this organization that has bought out 99% of the world, and then you have just these small little pockets of resistance here that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. They say, we're not actually living off your land, we're living on our own land, and we're the people who didn't just lay down and sell out to you, so you should respect us. They're saying that to some of the people in this organization, but I don't really get that, because if you own 99% of the world, then I guarantee you that there's going to be something in that 99% that you can offer these people to trade them for their land. It doesn't make any sense. They should have sold out by now, because if you look at the place they're living in, not that special, not really a whole lot worth holding on to, but still, they're holding on to it and they're fighting for that little patch of land that they have. And then we also have a few interesting characters here as well, but with we learn a little bit about them, we see some of their backstory, and there's not really much development here, but I wouldn't expect too much with that because this is just an hour-and-a-half long movie. Darkside Blues also has a lot of potential to have some great fights as well, because there are some people here which are enhanced humans, which are basically mutants, which have tons of defense. You can pretty much kill them and they'll get right back up. You can break their bones and really do anything to them and it doesn't really faze them. They get right back up and they can shoot this energy out of their bodies, and it seems that they're really powerful, and it makes for some pretty exciting fight clips. That's all they are. They're mostly just clips, because right around the time that the fights get interesting, here we have Darkside, who walks in, the main protagonist of the movie, who really reminds me a lot of D from Vampire Hunter D, because it's this big guy with black hair, wearing mostly black, who doesn't talk at all except for saying small little things, and he is so OP that he barely has to even move to defeat people. He walks in and the entire atmosphere changes to black, and for some reason or another, the conflict is resolved, and we don't know why this happens. No explanation to this. I would really love to have some explanation to this. It did bring a lot of mystery and interest into the story for me, but it really took away a lot of the excitement, because you'll have like 5 seconds of awesome fights, and then he comes in and just changes everything, and there you go. Just pour water right on that fire and take away what this movie really needs, which is the excitement, because this movie is very slow paced. There's so much dialogue here that I really felt that sometimes I had to go back and watch some things, because I was just getting kind of bored with some parts of it, that I had to go back because I just lost interest for a moment and looked away to something else. So I had to go back a lot of times with this, but I really feel that with a movie like this, which has so many details to it, so many things that you want to know about the story, they tell you all about the things that you don't really care about. This isn't a movie that brings a lot of exposition into the plot, into the setting here. You learn a little bit about that, but it's mostly about the day in the life of some of these characters which live in this world, and the only things that you know about the world here is that some of the things that people tell each other about their past, which I can understand that, or people who are telling each other some of the things that they should already know. Simply, they're telling each other things that you need to know as the watcher, but they're telling each other about it, trying to make conversation, which doesn't make any sense, because they both live in the same world, it's their life, and they should already know about these things. They don't have to tell each other about it. So the basic setup for the story in Darkside Blues is that you have the Persona organization, which owns 99% of the world. One of the head representatives of the Japan branch goes into this small little town that they don't own. I don't know why they can't buy these people off, or furthermore, I don't know why they don't crush them, because you have the majority of the world and also mutants at your disposal, and you're letting these people just stay in this land and defy you and attack you just because they say no? I don't think anybody's gonna care if they crush them. But anyways, one of the representatives goes into this area, and he says that they were recently hit by a terrorist organization, and one of the last survivors of the people who attacked him, goes into this town and he's trying to find him. So he offers a big cash reward and also saying that whoever finds this person, dead or alive, gets a high-ranking position in the Persona organization, which is probably a lie anyways, because by then the person will already be dead. But you have the terrorist inside this small town which is running from everybody, both the agents of the Persona organization, which are enhanced humans, and also some of the other citizens from this area which are hunting them for that reward. So, of course, within this movie, there are a few other protagonists as well that bump into this terrorist, and he's in bad shape. They bring him in, they nurse him back to health, and then there's a lot of dialogue about some of these characters telling each other about their backstory, which I like because you get to learn a lot about these characters, and some of them, and pretty much all of them actually, had pretty sad stories to them. So that's one of the things that I really liked about this movie, is that a lot of these characters had some pretty interesting stories that they explained properly. And also, there are plenty of things in this movie which are left unexplained. You have this massive hole that opens up in the middle of the street. Perfect timing that this happens the same time as somebody from the Persona organization comes to town. And then this boy, this sickly looking boy in the top of the building, jumps into this hole and then comes out this carriage with Darkside on it. In my opinion, despite the fact that Darkside is one of the main characters, he is completely unnecessary, and I think that if this movie were without him, it would have been better, because there are so many plot holes because of him, there are so many things which are unexplained because of him. He comes out of this massive hole in the ground, which is actually explained later on. There's a little snippet of explanation to something about his character later on in the movie, which is just something told by a machine for some arbitrary reason. So he comes out of nowhere basically, and he solves all of the fights, or nearly all of the fights in this movie, which really take away from what little excitement the movie has. And then he just stands there, he rarely ever talks, and I really feel that this movie has a lot of interesting characters aside from him, characters that have deep stories and a lot of emotion with these characters because they had such sad past. And then you have this character which is here for absolutely no reason as far as I can tell, so I really have to say that his presence here really hurts the movie, and it would have been better off without him. So that's pretty much Darkside Blues in a nutshell. Without giving you any details about some of the major events that happen in this movie, there are some things that I really like, such as the characters. I like the characters here, and I really think that some of them had great backstories to them, because some of them were pretty sad. And then you have Darkside, which comes out of nowhere, and I feel that he is completely unnecessary. And then you have this terrorist character that is being hunted by the town, and he's also being hunted by some of these mutant characters from outside the town. And then there are a few snippets of interesting fights in the process. Now, moving on to the overall presentation of this movie, this came out in 1994, and I like older anime, but with this, I really have to say, even by the standards of 1994, wasn't really anything that special. Looking at this, there are some scenes here which I think look great, but then for the movie overall as a whole, on average, the animation here wasn't really anything that special. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't really anything that I can look at and I can say, wow, you can really tell that a lot of detail, a lot of effort went into this movie, probably because it really didn't have that great of a budget. And you could really tell that by looking at this, just by the way that how all of the fights are cut short. I don't know if it's like this in the manga or not, but most of the fights here are really just cut short, and they're not long at all, but the fights, when you do have them, they do look beautiful, and I would have loved to have seen more of that, but we don't. Now, moving on to the audio, I started to watch this movie with the English dub, and then about 5 to 10 minutes into this, I realized how bad of a mistake that is. I went back to the beginning, switched it to Japanese, and went on from there. Anybody who's going to watch this movie, don't watch the English dub, watch the Japanese, and then read the subtitles. It's not that big of a deal, just go ahead. It's much better than the English dub of this. So if I were to rate this movie out of 10, I'd have to give it a 6.5, because it does some things that I like, such as having an interesting atmosphere, interesting characters with some sad stories, and also some pretty nice looking fights from what little bit you get to see of them. But then again, also it does a lot of things that I don't really like as well, such as having this interesting story that they aren't really explaining a lot to you, and then cutting a lot of the fight short. And then overall, there are some characters here that I really think were unnecessary, and its pacing, mostly its pacing. It was very slow pace and very dialogue heavy. So anyways, if you've seen the anime movie of Darkside Blues, or if you've read the manga to it, then let me know your thoughts about it in the comments section below. If you've seen and read both, then let me know how you think they compare. And also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to, of course, subscribe, comment, like, and also share it with your friends if you want. I really appreciate all that. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later.